Hello everyone. I wanted to work a problem, completing the square problem, much more difficult than the ones I worked in the intro video. And so this is a step up. I'm not so certain they get any more difficult than this. So if you can work your way through this one, you're well poised to continue on in the last two chapters of our course. In this one, as in the intro video, the first thing you want to do is get the two x terms together in descending order. So I'm going to subtract 6x from both sides. And I'm going to add 3 to both sides. So there I've pretty much isolated my two terms. And again, we know that you must have to complete the square, the coefficient in front of the x squared term must be a 1. So I need to divide both sides by 6 here. And that would be my second move, dividing both sides by 6. Now, the division by 6 gets distributed to both of these terms. And 6x squared divided by 6 will simplify to simply x squared. Minus 6x divided by 6 will simplify to minus x. And the right hand side is 1/2. And now we're ready to evoke the technique for completing the square. And if you remember, what you needed to do, besides getting a coefficient of 1 in front of the x squared term, was the recipe for finding the magic number that you add to make this perfect square trinomial. And what you did, or what we're supposed to do, is take the coefficient in front of the x term. In this case it's -1. And you rip it out, you bring it to the side of your paper, and you run this recipe on it. And the recipe says you do two things to it. You divide it by 2 and you square it. And so when we do that here, we see that -1/2 times -1/2 is going to give us a positive 1/4. And since you're squaring here, you're always going to be getting a positive number here. And that's why we're always adding something to these trinomials to make them perfect square trinomials. So I'm going to be adding 1/4 here, and I'm going to be adding 1/4 here. To both sides. And now we're ready to crack this trinomial, and it cracks as x minus 1/2 times x minus 1/2, which I'll write as x minus 1/2 squared. And on the right hand side we have 2/4 plus 1/4, which gives us 3/4. Now we're getting close here. We're going to simplify this. We're going to untangle the left hand side, get the x out from being squared by taking the square root of both sides. So let's do that. And I'm going to go to what I call a house divided. Instead of writing this as the square root of 3/4, I'm going to write it as the square root of 3 over the square root of 4. And of course, when you take the square root of both sides of an equation, you have to put a plus minus in there, and I talked about that in the intro video, why that's so essential. Okay, so the square root kills the square, and let's take this up here and finish it off. On the left hand side I'm going to simply have x minus 1/2, and on the right hand side I'm going to have plus minus a square root 3 over, and the square root 4 simplifies to simply 2. And now all we need to do is add 1/2 to both sides, like so. And you could combine your two answers into fractions. You could add those two fractions of what I'm saying, then you could subtract these two fractions. But I'm going to leave it right there. I think that's good enough for our purposes here. So there's your answer, and I suspect this gets as hard as it gets, because we had to deal with fractions, and we had to remember that we needed to get a coefficient of 1 in front of the x. So if you can handle this one, I think you'll be okay going forward. I hope this helps. Be talking to you soon.